Hello, everyone. Don't know how many people are currently watching, but we are going to do the start today draft. It's gonna have some issues, I'm sure. So I'm gonna save pretty frequently, just to make sure I don't fuck anything up. But yeah. Not sure how delayed the draft or the stream is rather for YouTube, but hey, Sarby, thanks for joining.
The Bengals are now
So, the way this is gonna work, for the most part, I'm just gonna be able to sim to the next pick. It'll be fine. I have a list of trouble teams that will cause some issues. There's 12 of them. The Bears, Broncos, Cowboys, Dolphins, Eagles, Jags, Jets, Lions, Patriots, Raiders, Ravens, and Vikings. All of them kind of get messy in the mid-rounds. Like the Broncos, they take Jerry Jeudy, and in the second round, they're like, "Oh, we don't need another receiver." Hello, everyone. Oh, and I hear myself double. Currently watching, but we are going to do the start. There we go. I have myself on another screen. I don't like hearing my voice ever. But anyway, what the fuck was I saying? Oh yeah, so some teams will say, "Oh, well, we don't need this position, right? Because we already got this," and so they'll just go to their next need, what they think is their next need on the draft board, and then they'll come back around like late in the draft to take the player that they should have taken a lot earlier. So the plan is the first round shouldn't be a problem like at all. I think it runs fine. I think the second round for the most part does. I know the Broncos I need to override. So we're going to save after the first round, and then we'll probably save like every 16 picks or so from there on. So, and in the meantime, hell, let's talk about the draft. There's not too much to say about, the first few picks. Burrow, Young, Okudah. I expected all these to go.
The Giants are now on the clock.
A lot of people were shitting on Andrew Thomas for being the highest tackle picked, and I get it. Like, I don't like Dave Gettleman, like, as far as I can throw him, but I love Andrew Thomas. I think he's the best tackle in the class by far.
The Chargers.
Tua, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about Tua. I like him. I think he's really accurate. But you just gotta wonder if they can keep him upright.
The Panthers are now on the clock.
Yeah, the Vikings, they had a few issues, which I knew they would with all their fucking picks. Oh, by the way, Justin Herbert's going to be a bust. You can book it.
The Cardinals are now
Take it from a Bears fan. He is Mitchell Trubisky on crack. It's insane. I don't know why the NFL just doesn't learn their lesson. It's crazy to me. Derek Brown I like, but I don't think you take this high. He's an excellent run stopper. I don't know, like, I don't see him becoming like the next Aaron Donald or anything like that.
The Jaguars are now on the clock.
And no, I'm not going to talk this much for every pick, I promise, just for certain players. Isaiah Simmons is my favorite player in the entire class. And I should mention that after this, I'm going to move him to strong safety for the file. Because the dude plays everywhere. And if I put him at safety, he can play safety, he can play corner, he can play sub linebacker, etc.
The Browns are now on the clock. The Jets are now on the clock.
So I grew up in New York, so I'm also a Jets fan.
The Raiders are now on the clock.
I don't know how to feel about the Becton pick. For me, you take what's his face, Tristan Wirfs. You take him here, but that's just me. I know that he's really strong. That's like his thing. But I've seen some of his film, and you know how bad the Jets are historically at drafting, so you just kind of get the feeling that this one's going to be a fuck-up,
The Buccaneers are now on the clock.
I'd really like the Henry Ruggs pick if they didn't have Derek Carr as their quarterback.
The 49ers are now on the clock. The Broncos are now on the clock. The Falcons are
Jerry
now
Jeudy's
on the
my
clock.
favorite receiver in the draft.
The Cowboys are now on the clock. The Raiders are now on the clock. The Eagles are now on the clock.
1 second. So I have a second screen where I have like the actual draft order. I'm just making sure I haven't fucked anything up. Okay, everything's fine. Cool.
The Vikings are now on the clock. The Chargers are now on the clock. The Saints are now on the clock.
I think Kenneth Murray's a little underrated. I like him.
The 49ers are now on the clock.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not like the biggest guy with college in general, but I know most of the top guys. I didn't know who Brandon Ayuk was before the draft, but after I looked into him, he's the perfect kind of receiver for the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion. Like, a lot of people who are 49ers fans thought that at that 13th, 14th pick that they take a Jerry Jeudy, a CeeDee Lamb, but it doesn't really fit their scheme, and I really like that they drafted Kinlaw. That was one of my bigger calls in this draft.
The Seahawks.
Shout out to that franchise guy. Aaron Rodgers is punching air right now. This is another thing I wanted to talk about. The Packers had the worst draft I've maybe ever seen. It was so bad. And after the draft, after they didn't draft a receiver in possibly the best receiver class ever, they asked the Packers GM, like, well, why wouldn't you draft a receiver? And he's like, we're fine. Don't worry about it.
The Ravens are now on the clock.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
The Titans are now on the clock.
Patrick Queen is going to be great for them, for the Ravens. Contrast to the Packers, I think that the Ravens had by far the best draft class. I don't even really think it's that close.
The Dolphins are now on the clock.
Oh, whoops.
The Vikings are now on the clock. The Bengals are now on the clock.
Okay, so the first round went, and everything's fine. I'm going to name this, like, Start Today Draft. So I have the other file to go back to if I need to. So there's going to be some other housekeeping after the draft that I'm going to have to take care of before we release this file. Like, I have to update Taysom Hill's contract, Jameis Winston. I have to make some signings, some cuts. So when it's released, it'll be in preseason week 1 for everybody. That's the only way I can do that. Yeah, Siri, I love TFG. That man, I mean, he's a Packers fan, so I shouldn't really like him that much, but dude is really fucking smart.
The Lions are now on the clock.
Okay, I need to pull up my teams that are problems. The Lions might not take DeAndre Swift here. I'm not sure.
The Giants are now on the clock.
If you guys catch any picks that where it's like, wait a minute, that's not right, yeah, let me know for sure. Oops.
The Dolphins are now on the clock.
Overall, I like what the Dolphins did in this draft. I mean, if you believe in Tua, you take him, right? And then they got him offensive line help, which is exactly what they needed to do. I really like Brian Flores as a coach. I think he's going to be really good once he has some actual talent.
The Jaguars are now,
and especially with Brady leaving the Patriots. I don't think they'll make a playoff run this year, but they'll definitely be improved, right?
The Bears are now on the clock.
Bears should take Komet.
The Browns are now on the clock.
So let's talk about the draft as a Bears fan, right? I like Cole Komet. I know that it's kind of a meme that the Bears have 69 tight ends. I get it. And this signing, or this draft, I should say, this draft pick right here would be an A+ if they didn't sign Jimmy Graham to an abhorrent amount of money. I don't know what the fuck they're thinking with that. Ryan Pace, he makes me want to blow my brains out, right? Because he can be a genius, right? He can do this crazy shit. He consistently hits on mid-round picks. He had that Khalil Mack trade. Fantastic. And then he just does the stupidest fucking shit. It just bugs me. The Browns here should take Del Pitt.
The Buccaneers are now on the clock.
I'm gonna save here to be safe. Let me make sure everyone's gone. That should have gone. Oh, does it only show for the Chiefs? I guess it does. Okay. Well, let's hope that everything went well. Actually, I'll just make a new one. Just to be safe. So Antoine Winfield should go here.
The Broncos are now on the clock.
Was kind of hoping he would fall to the Bears at 18, but that's okay. Oh, we got Jalen Johnson, who I really like as well. Okay, so good thing I just saved. So guys, quit out. the thing with the Broncos I was talking about just happened. So I need to just manually take KJ Hamler for them.
The Broncos are now on the clock.
Oh, he's right there.
The Falcons are now on the clock.
Yeah, the game acts weird if you are, like, if you're, so I'm Andy Reid right now, I'm the commissioner. If I go in and I look at the Falcons and I take a player for them, it bugs out a little bit. I'm not really sure what's up with that. Okay, the Falcons should be fine. Whoops.
The Seahawks are now on the clock.
Seahawks should take Darrell Taylor.
The Steelers are now on the clock. The Cowboys are now on the clock.
Okay. Trayvon Diggs.
The Rams are now
I like
on
that
the
pick a
clock.
lot. Shout out to NFC 3PO, by the way, not only for his great work on the draft class, obviously, but I forgot to mention this, but at the end of round 1, we were watching the draft, all of us in Discord, right? And we were talking about it in the general chat. And I had in my mock draft, I had the Chiefs going with Jonathan Taylor. I like him. He's my favorite running back in the class. But NFC correctly pointed out that that Edwards-Helaire guy that they drafted fits their scheme way better, and he was right. He called it like 6 picks in advance, which is pretty impressive.
The Eagles are now on the clock. The Bills are now on the clock.
The Jalen Hurts pick is really fucking funny to me. They talked about it. I think Harry Roseman did, and he's like basically like, you know, in the, I think it was the 2012 draft that Russell Wilson went, right? He was like, oh well, we missed out on him then because we tried to wait, so we said fuck it, we're just gonna take him right here. And what that really tells you is they really don't believe in Carson Wentz and his health.
The Ravens are now on the clock.
Should be J.K. Dobbins. I like that pick a lot for them. I like Mark Ingram a lot. He's one of my favorite running backs, but he's getting up there in age.
The Rams are now on the clock. The Vikings are now on the clock.
Should be Denzel Mims,
The Patriots,
who I like in this spot. I talked before the draft with some of my friends, and I said that he was really overrated. But that's because before the draft, you had some people saying he was going to be like a mid-first round pick, which was ridiculous to me. I think in this spot, he makes a lot of sense for the Jets, who just lost Robbie Anderson to the Panthers, I believe.
The Titans are now on the clock.
Josh Uche, whenever I do any franchise, he always becomes a god, and I don't know why.
The Packers are now on the clock. The Chiefs are now on the clock. The Bengals are now on the clock.
So everything went well there. Let me save. Okay, first pick here should be Logan
The
Wilson.
Redskins are now on the clock.
Antonio
The
Gibson.
Lions are now on the clock. The Jets are now on the clock. The Seahawks are now on the clock.
The Ashton Davis pick here is interesting for the Jets. I believe that they picked up Jamal Adams' 5th-year option, right? I don't watch the Jets nearly as much since I live in Chicago. But I don't know what the deal is with Marcus May, and I know that he's injured a lot. So, but I like Ashton Davis. I think he could be a good future player for them.
The Dolphins are now on the clock. The Ravens are now on the clock. The Cardinals are now on the clock.
I'm kind of surprised Josh Jones fell. I actually had him pegged for late first-round pick. Not because he's necessarily some great talent, right? I mean, he's good. But it's just the NFL with offensive linemen is like drugs to a fucking drug addict, right? You just they just go crazy for him. Obviously, since offensive lines across the league are really fucking bad. The talent level there is a lot lower compared to other positions.
The Lions are now on the clock. The Broncos are now on the clock.
Okay, I need to make sure. I'm going to save here because I need to make sure the Broncos don't do something stupid. They should take Michael something. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
The Falcons are now on the clock.
This should be Matt Hennessy out of Temple.
The Jets are now on the clock. The Raiders are now on the clock. The Raiders are now on the clock.
Okay, so that's another one. Okay, cool. I noticed it. So the Raiders, they like to not take the 2 receivers in a row that they're supposed to take.
The Falcons are now on the clock.
So they should be taking Lynn Bowden and Brian Edwards.
The Raiders are now on the clock. The Cowboys are now on the clock.
Got that feeling like I'm gonna sneeze, but I've had it for like a minute straight. It's the worst feeling. Gonna save. So after this is all done, I'll go through each team. We'll verify that everybody has who they should have in the right spot. Because the last thing I want to do is go forward with this and realize, oh shit, I took him, he's supposed to go in the 2nd, but I went in the 7th. Fuck. But I'm like 99.9% sure that we've gotten everyone up, like everyone correct up until now. So it should be Gallimore.
The Broncos are now on the clock. The Colts are now on the clock.
I really want to sneeze. Please.
The Bills are now on the clock. The Browns are now on the clock. The Texans.
Okay, there's another one for the Vikings. So they should be taking Cameron Dantzler there out of Mississippi State.
The Broncos are now on the clock. The Patriots are now on the clock.
The fucking draft announcer guy here is really annoying. Because when I was running tests, I would like sim to the end of each round. When I was running tests with like the actual draft order in Madden. So I would sim to each round. So I would just constantly hear, the Bengals are on the clock. The Bengals are on the clock. The Bengals are on the clock. Yeah, that never gets annoying.
The Texans are now on the clock.
Yeah, speaking of which, editing the actual draft order was absolute ass. I hated it a lot. It's just very mind-numbing, and it's very easy to mess something up. There was like, when I ran tests on it, I messed like 8 separate things up. And it wasn't that difficult to fix, just a pain in the butt.
The Patriots are now on the clock. The Ravens are now on the clock. The Titans are now
I really like Devin Duvernay for them. I'm telling you, the Ravens had a fantastic draft, like A+, for sure.
The Packers are now on the clock.
Okay, let's talk. I talked about how I hated the Packers draft. And that franchise guy had a blow up talking about this, but this is so fucking true. I didn't even know who this guy was entering the draft. I'd never heard of him in my life. And according to him, at least, they said that he might play fullback. They could have gotten him in like the 6th round if they wanted somebody like that. It's hilarious that here. Let's look at the receivers still available. Like, not any guys that are gonna blow the roofs off, right? But somebody get some receiver, any of them. But no, we need Josiah. That's hilarious to me.
The Chiefs are now on the clock.
And this should be Lucas Niang.
The Bengals are now on the clock.
3rd round is done. Everything's going honestly pretty smoothly so far. So, okay, I gotta skip past the compensatory picks. As I talked about in the Discord, compensatory picks will be added after. I can manually edit the round that they were picked and their pick number. Now, I originally thought that there would be some issues if, like, for example, the first compensatory pick is Jacob Phillips for the Browns. So he was picked in the 3rd round, with technically the 33rd pick in that round. So I thought there might be some issues like that with Madden. But I looked at somebody, a random player who was a compensatory pick in the past, and no, it says for him, like, oh, picked in the 4th round with the 37th pick, or some shit like that. So I think that I should be able to do that, and it'll work fine. Even though nobody will ever fucking notice it. It's not like somebody's gonna like look at like a random compensatory player and be like, Synthros, you need to go back and fix this, bro. It doesn't have the right, round in his player card. Actually, some people probably would do that. You cunts.
The Redskins are now on the clock.
Whoops. This should be Sadiq Charles.
The Raiders are now on the clock. The Dolphins are now on the clock.
Solomon Kinley.
The Chargers are now on the clock. The Cardinals are now on the clock. The Jaguars. Are now
There's another one. So Jacob Phillips there is supposed to go. I just talked about him. He's supposed to be a compensatory pick, but the reason that he's on their draft board is because in the 5th round, the Cardinals last year used a 5th round pick in the supplemental draft, so they're missing their 5th round pick this year. But Madden is stupid, and they don't have that. So the Cardinals still have their pick. I tried to zero out like who had the pick in the franchise editor. That just causes it to crash. Like the game just freaks the fuck out. It's like what's going on right now? So since the Browns had the first compensatory pick, they are going to be the only team in this draft that actually takes one of their compensatory players in the draft. I'll edit his round and shit later, but that's just so somebody gets taken with that spot, and the Cardinals don't keep it. It'll make more sense when I get there, but
the Raiders are now on the clock.
Okay, so everything up to them was fine.
The Dolphins are now on the clock. The Cardinals are now on the clock.
So they should be taking not you, but Harrison Bryant. There you are.
The Jaguars are now on the clock.
Jags should be taking Ben Barch.
The Vikings are now on the clock.
Cool.
The Falcons are now on the clock.
Michael Walker.
The Jets are now on the clock.
The Jets, LaMichael
The
Perine.
Lions are now on the clock.
I think that's how you say his name. I don't fucking know. Admittedly, I don't know anything about him. I just know that Adam Gase does not like Le'Veon Bell, and all I know is I don't like Adam Gase. I think he's a shitty head coach. I understand that when the Jets were looking for a head coach last year, that it's kind of slim pickings, and I get that. But dear God, like, ooh, fucking googly eyes. I don't like him. I don't like anything about him. I liked him when he was the Bears' offensive coordinator, but I don't like him as a head coach.
The Colts are now on the
This
clock.
is another error. The Lions should be taking Logan Stenberg.
The Redskins are now on the clock. The Dolphins are now on the clock. The Cardinals are now on the clock. The Jaguars are now on the
And then
clock.
I'll save after I make that pick for the Lions.
The Vikings are now on the clock. The Jets are now on the clock.
What am I doing? Logan Stenberg. There you are.
The Colts are now on the clock.
Yeah, so after the draft happened, obviously, I knew that there'd be some players in our class that that got drafted. Or some players in real life, rather, that got drafted that didn't exist in our class. But the number was a lot higher than I thought. It was like around 55 players. Huge credit to Cursive and to NFC 3PO for getting that out. I mean, it took them like, what, 3-4 days? I mean, that they did a lot of work. It's very impressive. Let me save. Made my life a lot easier for sure. So the Colts should be taking Jacob Eason.
The Cowboys
I like
are
Jacob.
now on the clock.
I think he's a good prospect.
The Steelers are now on the clock.
But the Cowboys should not be taking him here. He's supposed to go in like the 6th or the 7th. Now here they're taking Reggie Robinson.
The Cowboys are now on the clock. The Steelers are now on the clock.
Steelers should be Anthony McFarland, who
The
I like a
Jets
lot.
Are now on the clock.
Jets should be taking James
The
Morgan.
Texans are now on the clock. The Bills are now on the clock.
It should be Cameron Clark.
The Vikings
But it's
are
not.
now on the clock.
Yeah, so Sabo explained it before I started this, that teams have like a hard cap on the positions that they draft and the number of them and whatever. And I guess in general that makes sense, but it's a bit of a pain in the butt, huh? Okay, where the fuck was I? Need to go back a little. Okay, so I saved after I took Stenberg.
The Cowboys are now on the clock. The Steelers are now on the clock.
God damn it. I'm an idiot. So if you guys are watching this and you're like, Synthros It's a little boring. Yeah, welcome to my fucking life. This is what I do every day. Like, this is what I've been doing to get this shit updated. Usually it's just been me looking at tables and, like, being like, oh, I need to change this to, you know, whatever. The whole reason the Start Today thing started in the first place was just because I got bored one day. And, you know, I got tired of having to start up, like, set up my franchise each time. So I figured everybody else was too. And I said, okay, fuck it. Like, I'll just do it and share it with everybody. And then nobody ever has to do it again. I did not expect it to become as, like, large scale as it did.
Are now on the clock.
But it's pretty cool that it did. I mean, I'm glad that people don't really have to dick around anymore when starting up their franchises.
The Eagles are now on the clock. The Bills are now on the clock.
So it was the Jets that had the issue, I believe. So they should be taking Cameron Clark. Right tackle? Did I pass him? There he is.
The Vikings are now on the clock.
Gonna save here.
The Cardinals are now
there we go, that's another issue. Should be James Lynch out of Baylor. There he is. Yeah, so when I was getting all this set up, when I was like running tests and like then going through each team, setting up the draft board, I would have little mini heart attacks each time. Like I couldn't find a player at first, like being like, oh no, like what if my guys, like what if they accidentally miss one of these guys? But then I mean they were always just like a different position. You know, like, oh, I thought this guy was supposed to be an outside linebacker, but he was at defensive end, like shit like that. Yeah, the guys did a really great job. And for the most part, everything's sorted in the exact draft order, which obviously makes it a lot easier for me to find people. So this should be Rashard Lawrence.
The Vikings are now on the clock.
Now it should be Troy
The
Dye.
Seahawks
There he is.
Are now on the clock. The Steelers are now on the clock.
Evan Dotson.
The Rams are now on the clock.
Bryson Hopkins,
The Jaguars
who I like a
are
lot.
now on the clock.
He's rated really high for being a 4th round pick. I think originally he might have... I think he was projected to go higher originally in this class, now that I think about it. This should be Josiah Scott. It's not. Fuck. Here we go again. Yeah.
The Cardinals are now on the clock.
Yeah, so after the draft and before I put out the file, I'm going to basically go through each team. I'm going to look at their team, like depth charts and stuff, and I'm going to move other players, certain players to fit their scheme. Because I know that some players that are being drafted here are kind of in the wrong spot.
The Vikings are now on the clock.
Hey, Whiskey, welcome to the stream.
The Seahawks are now on the clock.
Okay, so
The
won't have a
Falcons
problem
are now
here
on the
until
clock.
the Jaguars.
The Jaguars are now
So
on
they
the
should be
clock.
taking Josiah Scott.
The Chiefs are now on the clock.
And this should be L'Jarius Sneed, but I feel like there was a problem with the Chiefs, so I'm going to save.
The Bengals
okay.
are now on the clock.
Okay, so this should be Khalid Kareem.
The Seahawks
Nice
are
name.
now on the clock.
I like that.
The Colts are now on the clock.
Danny
The
Pinter.
Giants are now on the clock.
Okay, I'm going to use Shane Lemieux as an example. Hear me out. Me and my buddy were talking about football. You guys ever notice that players that are good at football, like, they have, like, football names, and they just look like a football player? Like, Tom Brady, you know, Peyton Manning, Shane Lemieux. Like, that's just like a football name. And then there's Mitchell Trubisky. Mitchell Trubisky, which is not a football name, and he looks like a baby, and he's bad at football. I don't think that's a coincidence, I'm just saying. Like, Deshaun Watson. That's a football name, right? I put a lot more time and thought into that philosophy than I'd like to admit.
The Panthers are now on the clock.
Okay, Kenny Robinson
The
here.
49ers are now on the clock.
Okay, so this should be called McKivitz.
The Browns
Yes.
are now on the clock.
As I was talking about earlier, the Cardinals in real life, there's no pick here. It goes from the 49ers to the Dolphins. You can't do that in Madden. So instead, with the Browns here, we're going to take their compensatory player, Jacob Phillips. It's the best I can do with that slot.
Now on the clock.
This should be Jason Strowbridge?
The Bears
I think that's how it's
are now on the
pronounced.
clock.
Packers wide receivers seem to have certain names. That is, that is very accurate. Equanimous St. Brown, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. It's rather
The
amusing.
Redskins are now on the clock. The Jets are now on the clock.
Now this should be Bryce Hall for the Jets. They tried to take him last round.
The Patriots
There you go.
are now on the clock.
I don't know if the Patriots will take. I want to see if they'll just take the kicker or if I have to manually do it.
The Browns
No, they don't
are now
want
on
to.
the clock.
So kickers and punters in general, Madden's just like if you put them on the draft board, and I think it's if you put them on the draft board and they already have one or something like that. I don't know what the Patriots do actually. The Patriots have a kicker. I know they cut Gostkowski, but I don't know if they did anything about it. Yeah, so the Patriots should be taking the guy here on their own, but they're just not. But that's okay. Oh yeah, Geronimo Allison. I forgot about him. I don't like Geronimo Allison at all. I think he's honestly trash. Is he even still on the team?
The Browns are now on the clock.
So the Browns here should be Nick Harris.
The Buccaneers are now on the clock.
Again, I think he was in our original draft class. I want to say he was a second-round prospect, which explains his high overall here. But I actually think he's pretty good in real life, so I don't have any problems with it. This should be Tyler Johnson.
The Redskins are now on the clock.
Malik Hudson.
The Bears are now on the clock.
Kindle Vildor.
The Dolphins
Nope.
are now on the clock.
Okay, so I got to make that manually for them.
The Browns are now on the clock. The Buccaneers are
It'll
now
be
on the
nice
clock.
to be done with this
The
update.
Redskins are now on the clock.
I would say collectively from the work that I've done and the work that others have done, this is probably like the most effort that's been put into an
Bears are
update,
now on the clock.
in my opinion. The initial free agency update was probably the most time consuming, just because of how tedious it was. I got really lucky though, because when I started doing the free agency update, which I originally wasn't even gonna do, if you remember, Sabo at the same time just happened to drop this little mod for somebody that just makes the CPU players just accept anything in free agency. So it made it a lot easier for me to just go into each team and be like, okay, I'm going to give you what you actually got in real life. And they just accept it no matter what it was. That saved me a lot of time. What am I looking at right here? Okay, here we go. Hudson and Johnson had the wrong schools. I did notice a few players that did have the wrong schools, yeah. I might dick around with that, I might not. I don't really know yet. It shouldn't be a problem once we get out of the draft. I just know when you edit anything in the draft class, Madden is an asshole, and like it can just fuck things up. But once these guys are drafted, I should be able to just go to them individually and fix it. So if you notice certain players that are having the wrong schools, just drop it in the chat and I'll make a note of it to fix it before I release. CRB, you did help with this update and I appreciate it. This should be Curtis Weaver.
The Jaguars
Okay.
are now on the clock.
Blake Ferguson, okay. Blake Ferguson, we need to talk. That's a long snapper. I don't know why he's a 62 overall. Is he strictly a long snapper or does he actually play tight end? I'll have to look into that. Might lower his overall before release because most tight ends who are long snappers are like in like 40 overalls, right? So this should be Curtis Weaver. Wherever he is. There he is.
The Jaguars are now on the clock.
So yeah, as I was saying earlier, before I release this, I am going to go through each team. I'm going to look at their depth charts, compare it to their depth charts like on their team website or whatever. Look at their schemes, and I'll put players where they're supposed to go. Madden used to have a thing where it would look at the scheme at the end of the year, and like I think the CPUs could actually change their scheme. I think I remember this in Madden 25, and so they would automatically switch players to match that scheme. I don't know if it was perfect or not, but I don't think they do that anymore. I don't think they changed their scheme, period, like ever. So this should be Colin Johnson, I believe.
The Lions are now on
That's
the clock.
not Colin Johnson. Okay, let's do this again. Actually, hold up. I think I might have messed something up. I did mess something up. Oh wait, no, I didn't. I'm done. Ignore me.
The Jaguars.
I was like, oh, I was looking at the draft board and I was like, oh, Curtis Weaver is not on the Dolphins, big board. But I'm an idiot. I'm on the Chiefs right now. Duh. I need to get back to where I was on this page. There we go. So the Jags should be taking Colin Johnson.
The Lions are now on the clock.
Can you stream doing those edits? Maybe. I don't know yet. It'll be. It's not. I gotta say, it's not some fun thing to watch. I promise. Just like going through each player, and a lot of it's external too. Now changing the position, that's all in game, obviously, or changing some ratings. But like changing, like, oh, this player was taken. This compensatory player was taken in this round. It's like, oh, I gotta go to the editor. I gotta find them in the player table. I gotta do this and that. It's not exactly mainstream entertainment. What am I looking for here? I'm looking for you.
The Bills are now on the clock.
Okay, I'm gonna save here. Should be Jake Fromm.
The Eagles are now on the clock.
John Hightower.
The Vikings are
Nope.
now on the clock.
So we're seeing a lot more fluctuation towards the late rounds of the draft of teams not picking who they're supposed to. Once I get past the 6th round, it shouldn't happen at all in the 7th round because the only players that should be left on their boards are the last ones, right?
The Eagles are now on
think
the
I'm
clock.
I think I'm thinking about that the right way.
The Vikings are now on the clock.
So this should be Harrison Hand.
The Ravens
It's
are now
not.
on the clock. The Eagles are now on the clock.
Okay, let's try this again. So John Hightower.
The Vikings are now on the clock.
And then for the Vikings, it is Harrison Hand.
The Ravens are now on the clock.
I'm gonna save after that. This should be, how do you pronounce his name? Broderick Washington? Broderick? I don't know.
The Texans are
But
now
that's
on the
not
clock.
him. Yeah, I remember the Ravens had some issues in this simulation where they wouldn't take the right guy.
The Texans are now on the clock.
Texans should be Isaiah Coulter.
The Lions
Very
are
good.
now on the clock.
This should be Jason Huntley.
The Bears are now
God
on the
damn it.
clock.
This game's being a real dick to me right now. I see we got like 9 people watching right now, which is kind of crazy. I didn't really expect many to actually watch. Okay, so let's do this again.
The Texans are now on the clock.
Texans, they did it no problem.
The Lions are now on the clock.
Lions, they had a problem. So they should be Jason Huntley.
The Bears are now on the clock.
I'm already here, so I'm just going to do it. Daryl Mooney.
The Titans.
I think
are
I'm
now
just going
on
to
the clock.
manually do the rest of the 5th round picks just to, I don't know, just cuz. Titans should be Larry Murchison.
The Packers are now on the clock.
Kamal Martin. I think he's middle linebacker. No? right outside.
The Vikings are now on the clock.
KJ Osborne.
The Chiefs are now on the clock.
And this should be Mike Dana. Okay, so I'm going to save after this.
Bengals are now on the clock.
Hopefully won't have as many issues in the 6th and 7th rounds where they just don't take the right players. And these 2 rounds are where, obviously, as you'd expect, a lot of the players that got drafted that we didn't have in our class, that's where these guys reside. I haven't heard of most of these people, to be completely honest with you.
The Broncos are now on the clock.
Okay.
The Giants are now on the
This should
clock.
be Cam Brown.
The Panthers are now on the clock.
Bravion Roy.
The Dolphins are now on the clock.
This should be where Blake Ferguson goes.
The Chargers
Cool.
are now on the clock. The Browns are now on the clock. The Bills are now on the clock.
I'm going to save here because they're supposed to take a kicker here, so let's see what they do. They might actually. I think in the sim. I simmed before I did this. I just simmed the whole draft, and I think I saw that they did.
The Jaguars
they do.
are now on the clock.
It should be Jake. Is that Jake Luden? I believe it's pronounced.
49ers are now on the clock. The Jets.
Charlie
are now
Warner.
on the clock.
That reminds me of a guy. He got drafted in like 2013. He was a pass rusher, and I think he had that last name. And he was a total bust for the Colts. I'm sure one of you knows who I'm talking about. I don't think he like did anything in the NFL. He was picked like the 20-something pick. Yeah, I don't think he did anything with them. So I think the Jets are supposed to take a puncher here, so I'm gonna save.
The Packers are now on the clock. The Buccaneers are now on the clock.
That's really high for a 6th-round pick.
The Eagles are now on the clock.
Should be Sean Bradley.
The Lions are now on the clock. The Rams are now on the clock.
So the way I see it, as long as we make it to the end of the 6th round here, we shouldn't have any problems in the 7th round. Like I was talking about before. Shouldn't be any issues. So this should be Jordan Fuller.
The Eagles are now on the clock.
Quez Watkins.
The Ravens are now on the clock. The Vikings are now on the clock. The Vikings are now on the clock.
It should be Metellus. Metellus? I don't know.
The Jaguars are now on the clock.
Should be Tyler Davis.
The Bills are now on the
Isaiah
clock.
Hodgins.
The Packers are now on the clock. The Colts are now on the clock. The Bengals
Oh,
are now
beautiful.
on the clock.
I think, guys, I think we're in the clear. There should not be any issues going forward.
The Redskins are now on the clock.
Going through it kind of quickly, but I'm keeping an
The
eye
Giants
on the
are now
picks.
on the clock.
Bjorn Warner, that sounds right. I fucking remember. Okay, remember how earlier I was talking about football names and all that shit? Like, oh, you gotta have a good football name. You gotta look like a football player. Yeah, Bjorn Warner is not a football name. It's just not. Bjorn Warner's the name of the guy that you see at the bank that gets you set up, you know, for a new account at Chase. Like, he's just not pass rusher. It's just not. And that's okay, but, ooh.
The Chargers are now on the clock. The Panthers are now on the clock.
Now, Stanley Thomas Oliver, on the other hand, that's a football name.
The Jaguars are now on the clock.
It should be Cole McDonald.
The Vikings are now
Cole
on the clock.
McDonald had a
The
farm.
Bears are now on the clock.
The Bears might mix up their 2 picks here. It's possible. So they took 2 offensive linemen in a row. Let's see if they do it right.
The
They did.
Bears are now on the clock. The Redskins
Cool.
are now on the clock. The Cowboys are now on the
This
clock.
should be Danucci.
The Steelers
Weird fucking
are now
name.
on the clock.
That's a weird name.
The Eagles are now on the clock.
Should be Hill.
The Rams are now on the clock.
Where am I? Clay Johnston.
The Lions are now on the clock. The Packers are now on the
Vernon
clock.
Scott.
The Giants are now on the clock. The Saints are now on the clock.
Chappelle Russell.
The
Not to be
Packers are now on
not
the
to be
clock.
confused with Dave Chappelle. I love Dave Chappelle. My favorite comedian though is actually Bo Burnham. I wish he still did stand up. I love that guy. So this should be Nate Stanley, right? No. Where am I? Who am I on right now? The Packers. Okay.
The
Yeah, Jonathan
Titans are now on the
Garvin,
clock.
and then Chris
The
Jackson,
Vikings
and then Nate
are now on
Stanley.
the clock.
And the last 2 picks, Raymond
The
Calais.
Dolphins are now on the
This
clock.
should be Malcolm Perry. And it was. I think we just did it. I think we did it with no problems. So, my man Cursive sent me a list of drafted players for each team. It's sorted by team. So I'm going to check and make sure everything's in the correct order. So let's see. Go team by team and figure it out. Komet, Jalen Johnson, Gibson, Bildor, Mooney, and Brett. Okay, they're good. Yep. Watch, I like miss something in the... Watch, I like miss something in like the fucking 3rd round or something. I have to go all the way back and fucking die. I'd be really sad. Okay. There we go. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so Jedrick Wills. Okay, everything's good there. Like I was talking about before, they have their compensatory picked player here. That is because of the Cardinals situation that I discussed before. So that's expected. That's fine. Okay, they're good. Yeah, the bulk of the work after this is really just gonna be changing the positions to be where they should be. Figuring that stuff out. For all the players that went undrafted, I know obviously after the draft there's like a surge of undrafted free agent signings, right? All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the players that are already existing. I'm not making any more fucking players, right? And I'm gonna sign them to their correct teams in preseason week 1. And yes, I will sign them to the standard 3-year undrafted free agent deal. So we don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about losing all your undrafted players after a year. Just one of the many things that Madden just doesn't do. Just cause. The last great Madden game that I played, and I'm talking like unmodded, because obviously with the way that we've honestly pretty much fixed this game, if we're being completely honest, in pretty much all facets. The work that the community's done in under 2 years of being on PC is kind of insane. But the last unmodded Madden that I think was great was Madden 12. That game was awesome. I could still go back and have a lot of fun with it. So the Chiefs are good. Pittman, Taylor, Blackman, Eason, Inter, Windsor, and Rodgers. Okay. Hey, Cursor, what's up? Just looking through the draft results right now to make sure I didn't fuck anything up. I'm pretty sure everything is good. Let me look at the Dolphins again. They have a lot of picks. So I do want to look into what's his face here, Blake Ferguson. I need to see if he strictly was a long snapper or if he actually played tight end for them, because I don't know. If he was strictly a long snapper, I'm probably gonna lower him to be more in line with the other just regular long snappers in the NFL. But I don't know yet. We'll see. Yeah, what do you guys think about the draft? About like who had the best draft, who had the worst draft, etc., etc. Cowboys were missing. I know who you're talking about. Let me see. I think he was a comp pick, but I'm gonna check. Yeah, he was a compensatory pick, so he'll be added after. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Okay, so the Eagles are good. Falcons are good. Don't remind me of the Packers. Look, sorry to tell you, man, but that was a rough one. And it's weird because the Packers have had pretty good drafts in the last couple of years, in my opinion, overall. I don't know how Darnell Savage is going to turn out. But it seemed like overall they've had decent drafts, but this is a rough one. Okay. Andrew Thomas, Xavier McKinney. Let's talk about this pick. Xavier McKinney. It reminds me of when they took Landon Collins early, and I think it was either late in the first or like the first pick in the second round. The Giants always seem to get really good safeties around this spot, so let's see what happens to him. I think the thing about Dave Gettleman is he definitely can evaluate talent. It's just when he takes the talent that comes into question, you know? I think the Raiders overall had a good draft, but the problem with the Raiders and Henry Ruggs is that Derek Carr is not just going to suddenly become this deep ball, gunslinging quarterback just cuz. Like, it's just not, you don't just change all of a sudden. I worry that Derek Carr might be who he is at this point in his career. And he's good. He's fine. Like, he's not a bad quarterback by any stretch, but he's not. I know what they're thinking. They're thinking we gotta compete with the Chiefs. We gotta do this and that. I mean, that's what the Broncos were thinking. They just stacked weapons beside Drew Lock, and they're like, okay, have fun, kid. I like Drew Lock. I like Drew Lock a lot, actually. Okay, Jags are good. Jets are good. Yeah, Chris, I definitely agree that the Ravens had the best draft in the entire NFL. It's kind of crazy the depth that they were able to get. And the spots where they're drafting at, like the talent that they got. In regard to Mariota, I don't think it's really going to be a competition per se. I think it's going to be one of those things where Derek Carr just has the job, and if/when he plays like ass, if it happens, then it's like, okay, Marcus, have fun. That's what I would assume. I mean, I feel like you're paying Derek Carr too much to just be like, we're just going to bench you, like without at least giving you some games in the regular season. I did not know that we had Arnett that high. With that said, I know you're a Raiders fan, but that was a reach and a half, in my opinion. It's just, I think John Gruden and Mike Mayock, it's not that they're not smart, because they are, obviously. John Gruden, I actually love him as a coach, right? But I think sometimes they think, like, they think that they're smarter than they are, or like, oh, we're thinking, we're playing 4D chess, it's like, sometimes, like, if you're going to take Arnett, was he really going to go if you traded back? I know that you can't always just trade back if you want to, but, like, positional value when you take somebody matters, in my opinion. With that said, I do like the Packers trading up for Jordan Love. I don't like the rest of their draft. I think it's one of the worst drafts I've seen in a long time, in my opinion. Okay. Yeah, I like Ruggs and Lamb. I like Judy a little bit more than either of them, but I think all three of them are actually going to be really good. The question with Ruggs is, well, when he does go deep, will Derek Carr find him? I guess we'll find out. Okay, let's see. Getting distracted, trying to make sure I don't miss anything. So from what I can tell, every team up until the Patriots is completely good. So we're looking pretty good, guys. Okay. Let's see. With that said, I actually, when the Bears were looking to trade for a quarterback, it's not Nick Foles or Andy Dalton I wanted. I did want Derek Carr, if the Raiders were willing to part with him. I don't know if they were unwilling to part with him or the Bears just weren't interested in him. I don't like Nick Foles. I don't think... Speaking about people thinking that they're a lot smarter than they are, fucking Ryan Pace. Jesus Christ. Nick Foles works best in a backup situation where he can come in for a pinch, he can unleash some magic, but that's what he's good at. He can't be this long-term starter. He just can't. He can't start a whole season, and like, it's just not going to work. It won't. Okay, let's see. Okay, the Raiders are good. Okay. Here's the best draft class, in my opinion. Patrick Queen, J.K. Dobbins. Not going to try to pronounce that. Devin Duvernay, Broderick Washington, and Geno Stone. I know I keep coming back to that, but Geno Stone is a football name, man. I like that. I like him. Honestly, I just like imagine like on ESPN, it's like, well, you know, why do you like this player? I like their name, so they're gonna be a star. Chase Young, Antonio Gibson. Okay, they're good. I think the Panthers, I understood why they took Derek Brown, but if I'm the Panthers, there's no way I don't take Isaiah Simmons there. Like, especially right after losing Luke Kuechly. I don't know. I just feel like, again, positional value. Derek Brown's a really good player, but Isaiah Simmons does everything. And he does everything really good. Okay, Seahawks. Jordan Brooks, Darrell Taylor, Damian Lewis, Parkinson, Robinson. The Seahawks are good. Claypool, McFarland, Dotson, Brooks, and Davis. They're good. Dear God, Bill O'Brien. Oh my God. So I saw that they exercised Watson's fifth-year option, obviously. That was expected, but man, if I'm Deshaun Watson, I want out. Man, if only there was this other team in the draft that year that could have taken him, that also needed a quarterback, but instead traded up to take somebody else. Man, if only. If only. Sucks that one of those teams doesn't exist. I hate the Bears. When that happened, that night, I didn't know that much about Trubisky. I didn't really study him or like learn a lot about him. All I knew is I loved Deshaun Watson. And I was like, there's no way that the Bears wouldn't take Deshaun Watson. How could you not? He's a god. And fucking Mitch. Fucking Mitch. You could have traded back and taken Deshaun Watson. I love the Bears, but I hate them at the same time. Okay, so who am I looking at here? Isaiah Wilson, Christian Fulton, Darrington Evans, Murchison, McDonald, Chris Jackson. Okay, last team. And the team with the most picks. Justin Jefferson, Jeff Gladney, Cleveland, Dantzler, James Lynch, Troy Dye, Harrison Hand, Osborne, Brandel. We did it! We did it. Everything is as it should be. I was really worried that like I would like mess something up and I would just have to like do it all over again. That would not have been fun. Because if I did it all over again, I probably would have gotten like irritated and impatient and like fucked up again. That's good. So the plans after this, guys, as I talked about before, obviously going to add the compensatory picks. I'm going to sign them to like the standard 4-year deals, depending on the round that they were taken, to match these other guys that you're seeing. Like if they were a third-round compensatory pick, so they'd have a contract salary of $2.6 million, bonus of $720K, etc. for each round. Then I'm going to do the undrafted free agents who got signed, who already exist. And yeah, besides that, I talked about this before in the franchise modding section. But in regard to stat editing is a fucking bitch. Now look, there's no promises. I will not make any promises on this because I don't know if this is gonna work. But I've got a buddy who does scripting. By the way, I manually updated all the quarterback stats for 2019. Just thought I'd let you know. Career and season stats. But this guy who's really good at scripting is very confident that he can basically make something that gets all the player stats in 2019 and imports them like easy peasy to all these different players in the NFL, which would be nice considering. Let's go look at an example of what Madden does when we leave it to its own devices. 1 second. Fucking hold up. Yeah, so you're looking at this, right? And you're like, yeah, this is pretty good. This is pretty accurate. Okay, sure. Yeah, how about this? Fucking Zach Pascal with 17 touchdowns. Philip Dorsett with 15. It's always Cole Beasley. It's always Cole Beasley. Where is he? Where is the fucking Adam Humphries? It's always Adam. It's always Adam. I don't know why. I know Sabo's tried to dick around with wide receiver stats before to really no result because I don't know what the deal is. I don't know how Madden calculates it. The point is, like I said before, no promises at all, but we might have a solution in the future, certainly not for this update, that is kind of like a stat importer for career and season stats to make things easier for this. And if that worked the way that I think it would, it could also be used for like past franchises, like like the 2002 Start Today franchise. It's kind of wishful thinking as it is right now, but it could be a thing in the future. I thought maybe you guys would want to know that. Besides that, what do I want to do? Just kind of looking through each team in general. So something to keep in mind is there are some signings that happened right before the draft, and I was already in stage 4, so I obviously couldn't make those signings. So I'm gonna sign them in preseason week 1. That'll all be taken care of. Additionally, all the players that got their 5th-year options picked up, that'll all be handled as expected. And yeah, I mean, besides that, this update is just about done. Just besides those things. Now, those things will take a decent chunk of time to take care of and make all accurate and stuff. The other thing I'll do is, once I retire everybody but Andy Reid like I usually do, I always need to test this, because sometimes when I dick around with stuff, if I go to a team, let's say I go to the Bears, who right now their starter is Nick Foles over Trubisky, because I hate Trubisky. Let's say I made Trubisky a 74. Sometimes, and I think I know exactly what does cause this. It should never happen again. But sometimes in the past, if I am not controlling the Bears and Trubisky becomes a 74 overall, so he becomes better, and then I sim the week, Nick Foles will just still be the starter. I believe that's controlled by a certain setting in the franchise editor, which again, I believe I fixed. It shouldn't be an issue, but I always get like paranoid about it, so I always test it just to be safe. I know that a lot of people that use this file probably never look at like some random stuff, which is fine. It's expected anyway. But just a little shout out, because this will be updated again when I release this. Make sure you guys check out the stories. I always update the news section just cause I get bored. Additionally, I update like the I always update the descriptions and shit to match how it's supposed to be played. These are the kind of little things that I do that get me like giddy. I'm like, I can edit this stuff. But honestly, yeah, I think that's it for the stream. I mean, there's not much else for me to do on here in front of everybody. We got the picks all correct. We really didn't have any problems, to be honest with you. If there's anything else I'm missing, let me know. But I think that's about it, to be honest. I think. I don't like like Daniel Jones. I don't. And I know that we have somebody literally named Daniel Jones in the chat. Sorry, bro. But the dude, okay, you know, since I updated quarterback stats, let's look at the stats. And like, you're looking at this and you're like, okay, it's pretty good for a rookie season. And I'd agree. Then you realize he had 18 fumbles. So that's fun. Hey, no problem, guys. Thanks for joining the stream. But when I look at this stat line, this is like a Mitchell Trubisky stat line. Mitchell Trubisky from 2018. And that just makes me not feel good about Daniel Jones. So that's a little thing that I just thought of off the top of my head. With that said, I also don't like Dwayne Haskins, like, at all. Honestly, if they took Tua, I wouldn't have been... If they traded back and got, like, a huge haul and then got Tua or Jordan Love, I wouldn't have even been mad, like, for them. Like, it would make sense. I don't like Tua very much. Or not Tua, Haskins. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to call it there. I think we're going to leave it there, and yeah, I'll keep you guys updated on Discord as usual. Got any questions on there, let me know. But everything should be handled. So thank you guys a lot for joining the stream. I really appreciate it. I didn't expect as many people to watch as did, but you know, maybe we'll do something like this in the future again, since people seem to be clearly interested in it. So thanks, guys. Take care.